All right, I'm glad you're back with us. This is Linda Bennett with Metaphysically Speaking, and we've got another caller on the line, but I want to remind you that we're doing open metaphysical questions, and if you have any questions that you'd like us to deal with on our next program, because we're running out of time now to answer anything that's calling in now after this, put your question on my website at metaspeak.com with your initials or your name, and I will address it on the next program. Okay, we've got a caller. Call her first name and comment or question.
Hi, my name is Marcia.
Hi, Marcia. What can I do for you?
First, I have a comment. I wanted to talk about the Catholic Church.
Okay, that's an entire program. Let's get started.
Okay, well then I'll just ask my question.
Okay.
And I'll forget the comment. The question is.
No, you don't have to forget the comment. We got time.
Well, I'm just, been totally disgusted, for the last so many years with the pedophilia that went on, with the changing of the priests from parish to parish, and all that went on, And
are you talking about the sexual abuse of children?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what, it's one of the things that I hate in life, and living around, where in a state where Jerry Sandusky lives is really terrible for me.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, and so I'm, breathing that on the television constantly. But my question was about the Catholic Church and all the things that they did, and switching the priests around, from parish to parish, and then hiding, and then Cardinal Law going over to the Vatican and living like a king, and he did most of the stuff. But my question is...
He did a lot of the cover-ups, is what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am, cover-ups, yes.
Yeah.
Way back in about 92, somebody once told me that after the next pope, which is Pope Benedict now, okay, I believe this was Pope John Paul II was Pope at the time, but this person told me that after the next Pope, which would be Pope Benedict, that the Catholic Church was going to not have any more popes, and it was going to break up into factions. And I wondered if you thought that was true.
Yes, I do feel that's true. And that was predicted, I think, by Nostradamus as well, and Edgar Cayce. And the way things are going, that is going to be the only way that any type of Catholicism is going to survive. It's already happening. I had a client many years ago who lived in Italy right near the Vatican, and she said, we don't pay attention to those guys. We don't have anything to do with them. We know what they do in their personal lives. We see them every day. And I thought, wow, that's, to me, that was a big surprise for somebody to be having that kind of a perspective and living right near the seat of Catholicism. Catholicism is already broken up into the Russian Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the Roman Catholics. They're all bidding for power. I try to remind Catholics that their origins were Jewish, that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and Jesus' wife Magdalene were all Jewish. They were not Catholics. The Catholic Church did not exist until basically Constantine. So,
a made-up religion, a very much made-up religion.
They're all made up, Marcia. They're all made up.
I know they are. Believe me, I know they are.
So the question is, will there be one Catholicism? No, there isn't one Catholicism now, and there's a fanatical group that thinks that the masses should only be said in Latin, and the priest's back should be to the audience. When I was a kid, that's the way it was, and I thought, how insulting. If this man is trying to teach and he's conducting a service, how dare he have his back to us? But that was part of the old religion and keeping things a mystery so that people would be enamored of coming to church every Sunday. And the Catholic Mass is in two different parts. I was raised Catholic. If you're a regular listener, you know that. And I fought every step of the way and asked questions that they didn't want to answer and actually had no answers for. And investigated different religions as a child and was in every church in my town and every synagogue. So the Mass was in two parts. And when the bells ring, that's number one, to wake people up, but number two, to get the poor people out of the church. Well, think about it. There was no deodorant in those days. People did not shower regularly. They didn't wash their hair, and things were crawling in and out of their heads. They didn't wash their clothes regularly. So, and plus they drank all the time because they drank alcohol, they couldn't drink the water. So even if it was day-old wine, the smells coming out of people must have been horrendous. And so you're locked up in a small church or even a large synagogue, but you're on top of everybody, and people would basically faint from the awful smells or from a hangover from the night before. And so they wanted to wake up the wealthy people so they'd pay attention and get the poor people out of the church because they were not paying enough for the privilege of being there. And in fact, in many cases, there was a drape that separated the poor people from the wealthy people. And the poor people could only hear the priest. They couldn't see the priest.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about the bells.
Yeah, the bell. Yeah, and a former Catholic priest taught me that. He taught one and only class in my parish, and I was in that class. And he, just before he took his final vows, he left. He said he had been studying religion from all around the world, and when he realized what a farce this all was, he could not take his final vows and be a priest.
And I want to know what they did with the money, too, because, the schools, I live in the north, the schools up here are all closing and consolidating the schools into, one school into two.
You mean the public schools you're talking about?
No, the Catholic schools are closing here, up here in the north. In the Northeast, the Catholic schools have closed or merged with other Catholic schools because there's no money.
Right.
Excuse me? No money?
Well,
okay.
They have paid out multi-millions. At this point, it's probably over the last 20 years closer to $1 billion. And don't forget, we don't hear about every lawsuit because to keep it quiet, they pay you extra money.
True.
So the money is tucked neatly into the Vatican. Like I've always said, if what was the one? Teresa, sister, what was the one in India? Sister Teresa.
Mother Teresa in India.
Mother Teresa. If Mother Teresa had kept the
Mother Teresa that took in all that money, and where did it go? Did it go to the starving children of India? No.
No, if she had kept the money, there wouldn't be a starving child in India. There would be educated children who are well fed and well cared for. So money went, and this was told to me by one of my priest compatriots, that the money was sent directly to the Vatican, and she was given an allowance. And they had to keep only a certain amount of blankets on hand, so that when people came to contribute, they'd say, "Oh, you don't have enough blankets, you don't have enough sheets, you don't have enough syringes, you don't have enough this, that." And so then they would write a check, which went directly to the Vatican. So,
well, I'm really glad to hear that you think that it's still going to break up.
Are you familiar with that nun? I cannot remember her name, but she wrote a book. She's a professor in the United States, and she wrote a book, and she's battling the Vatican for women's rights. She's been chastised by the Vatican and told, I don't have the paperwork in front of me right now, and to go scurry and look for it would be stupid because you'll all be listening to dead air. She has been chastised by the Catholic Church for extreme feminism, and she claims that everyone has the right to their own reproductive life force, and that they have the right to control their family size. They have the right to work, to support themselves regardless of their male or female. They have a right to an education. The Catholic Church doesn't like this because no religion likes this. Why do Islamic people have no religion in their countries by and large, except for wealthy people? Because they don't want the poor people to have any knowledge or wisdom, because then they will know the truth about things.